Hi, welcome to the Andrew Buckle video tutorial on Affinity Photo and the Affine Filter. Now the Affine Filter is great for transformations. You can scale, rotate and offset as well as various extend modes. I'm just going to run through that. And here's the filter here. Where is it? Unfortunately there's no layer option, but there's going to be filters and distort and affine. So just go there to affine. And now it's sort of been superseded by the equations. But with the equations you need to know a bit of maths. You can, I mean, it's not complicated maths, but you can certainly have to know a little bit of complicated or basic maths to use it. But this you don't. You can just simply use the settings. So it's just a nice, compact, transformational panel, just called Affine. And you can rotate, and you can see you can rotate that design, and you can go there and you can set it, say 20. And offset, you can offset so you can make it move. Now unfortunately there's no interactive features, so you can't drag or anything like that there, and you can double click there and enter a value, 45 say. So you can do that. Also what you can do, you've got extend mode and you've got 0. This one 0 means you end up with just the picture itself squeezed, obviously because I've got all the settings applied here. But you've got extend mode of 0 and you've got transparency. That's obviously what they call it. Don't know why they call it that. Maybe they should call it transparency feature, but 0 it's called. Full. Instead of you get the background. Full. What you've also got is repeat. Repeat's probably my least favourite because it just stretches out from the edge. You get, so if you, I just don't think it works very well personally. I mean obviously it does, but it just doesn't do anything for me. I use wrap more often, and you've got this lovely, obviously the image itself, which obviously now rotated, and you've got there mirror, which is basically flips it, so you end up with a seamless texture or pattern. Very quick and easy. It's a great way of creating a nice pattern design, and you can still continue to rotate that around, and you can offset and all those sorts of things, and click apply. And as always with these filters, you can apply them more than once. So you've obviously just done that. You can go to filter and you've got repeat, and you can then create these nice sort of very intense, it's actually quite useful for creating really intense sort of zigzag cutting lines, which I quite like as design, because what you got then, you can go to filters, distort and deform or something like that, and you can really warp these lines in all kinds of different ways. So obviously I could apply it again multiple times. What you can also do, you've got here, you can go to repeat, and also you can go to a layer and you can fade it. So you want to, you can fade it, so you can blend between, so you can fade, you can see the picture or not, go back to the transformation, or you can use maybe darken, multiply, and so on. So you just keep testing which ones you like, just run through that, and you can see you can create some very interesting, smeary, unusual effects by using this fade. I love the fade command. Though I must admit, it always slightly baffles me why it's in the layer one, since it's not a layer. Well, it's on a layer, I know, but it just seems, because in Photoshop it's in the edit menu, they put it in the layer for instead. But anyway, that's the way it is. So you've got your design there. Well, obviously what you can also do, you can use selections, you can use layers, and I'm just going to run through some of them. So let's just go for layers. So you've got a layer there, and that's the layers panel. Obviously view, studio, everything's in here, all the various things. And you can just go here to layer and duplicate. So just duplicate it. I've got two now, two of the layers. And what I can do, I can use blending modes. So I can just run through. Obviously of no use at this point, because what I want to do is the filter. So filters and distort and affine. And again, I'm just going to go down there and just go through settings. And you can see as you drag that across, create some really nice sort of combinations using blending modes. Basically much the same as the fade. I haven't made a direct comparison. Maybe it is exactly the same as the thing. But also one thing that's useful is you can go, which is something quite often you can't in Photoshop, because they always have the dialogues where it forces you to complete. It's actually nice in Affinity Photo that you can actually run through these. Though weirdly, it doesn't update until you release, which is very different from most of the others where it sort of does change all the time. So you can create like difference, you can create a whole variety, and you can still continue to rotate and modify it. You can create some very surreal designs by using that. And you've got obviously the mirror option, and so which I think is a nice smoother design. So click apply, and of course you can always repeat it again, and so on. So it creates some very odd colour combinations. So back to that design. Well, what you can also do, you can use channels as well. So channels, you can go to View, and I can't, oh, there it is, Channels. So it's channels, but it's the same in the View and Studio. And what you can do, now this is one I always forget when I come out. I end up forgetting to go back to the default. So just going to go to composite red, and what you do, use the Affine. I know I'm not going to do all the others, but you can use maybe different effects, maybe apply a blur or something, or just not do anything on it. Then you can go back to the original design, and you can see the design there. You've got that sort of nice transformation, and you've got the rest of it is left as before. So you go back to that, make certain that all are accessed. Quite often I end up doing this tutorial and I'm suddenly working away through it thinking, that's not working. And the reason is it hasn't gone back to full on RGB. It's just, I'm thinking it is, anyway. What you can also do, you can use selections. So you've got selections here, so you can go to like freehand, you've got other selections over here, select, or maybe just go rectangle. Just go for everybody, and you can just select part of the image. Maybe you want to invert it, so invert pixel selection. So you've got the selection is on the outside of a border, and then you've got filter, and again go down to distort, and you've got Affine. And now instead it won't touch that theoretically, and you can see then you can squeeze those in, scale, and change those, and so on and so on. So you can create an interesting backdrop using this approach. Again, mirror there, click apply. I don't know why it always goes back to wrap. It would be nice if it just stayed with the one that I'm working on. So you can see you can use selections. You can also do various other things you can do with shapes. Oh, pattern layers. I knew it was something. It was back in my mind. I was thinking, what the next? Pattern layers. I love pattern layers. So layer, new pattern layer. Now you could use obviously the effect beforehand. Perfectly reasonable. But you can also go new pattern layer from selection. Then go to the move tool, up here, the move tool, and then you can obviously reduce the size down, just do that, and you can still rotate. A bit similar to the obviously the extend mode. You also got right at the top here mirror, so you can actually make it a mirror effect. It lets me select. There it is. So what you can do, you can go to filters, and again distort and Affine. Should be an interesting combination of things. So you can now going to try and so you can actually rotate it, which actually makes it slightly odd looking, and then use this at the same time as the pattern and offset as well as mirror, and so on and so on. So you can create some very interesting, and it's still live as well. Well, obviously the effect isn't, obviously the filter is now, but the pattern layer is still there. And of course you could still combine with the underlying design, because you've still got this original design and you've got this pattern layer and you've still got blending modes there. So you can actually go through it and just say, you know what, I want screen. So you can see the effect of the pattern along with the underlying image as well. So you can run through that. Now let's just remove that, and you got back to that image. Well, of course you can also apply other filters effects as well. So you've got filters, and you can go say, I'm just going to go for deform, so you can just apply sort of effects. I'm just quickly say distort the image so it doesn't look anything remotely like anything. So you've got that, and of course once you've done that, you've got this lovely long streak of light coming through that. Well, you can go to filters and of course distort and Affine, and again you can use that, and you can see then you've got that warp in there. Maybe set that to 20, and you can create some really weird and wonderful designs like that way and apply. So you don't have to just use that Affine filter, of course. What you can also do, you've got macros. Macros are good because what you can do, you can combine this. So you've got here, you can go to View, Studio, and Macro. So you bring up the macro. Now I've got something obviously in there already. What you can do, you can record. So before, when I did that, I could use the deform. So I could go in there. Let's just quickly do again something like filters and distort and deform. Go back into there. I could just distort that. Stretch that off there. Distort that. And so on and so on. So you can create all kinds of weird and wonderful designs just from any image. So you've got that design there, and it's been recorded over there. I was going to suddenly look and think, no, it hasn't. Yes, it has. Very, very tiny type, deform, it definitely in there. So what you can do, then you can go to filters and you can go to distort and affine, of course. And again, you've got that and you can scale that and you can see the effect then. Again, modify that. Sometimes that one below doesn't seem to want to select. There it is, selected there. Mirror and offset and so on, and apply. So you've got the design there. And that's all been recorded. So what you can do, press return. Now stop the recording and you can just play it. And then you get another effect, which is actually quite a nice one. It's just generated a nice sort of, obviously the deform on that original design plus the affine. Let's just run it again. And actually it's obviously getting smaller and smaller because obviously there was a bit of scale in there. So it's going to reduce things. But you can see you can create some very interesting combinations of patterns. And if you're not happy with the colour, of course, because colour's a bit unusual, of course you can always go to layer, new adjustment layer. And you can go down and maybe HSL and you can always tweak that. So you can see, you can just explore, maybe that might be more preferable. Well, also what you can do with Affine is you can use it with shapes. Let's just keep that. I'm not going to. Now I can go here to is a nice shape here, and you can select a shape. Now, of course, you can fill this with all kinds of different designs. So you don't have to have just white. I mean, obviously, I can. Let's just go and apply just quick style over here, just some gold. So what you can do then, you can go to filters, distort, and affine. And you can see you can rotate that around. You can say, oh, go for 20. And you can see the effect added there. Maybe offset. And you can move that and mirror and apply. So you've got your design just applied all the way across. So shapes can be used. And of course what you can do, you can also rasterize this design. So maybe you think, oh, you know what? Layer, rasterize. No. Just rasterize the whole thing and maybe apply other filters. So filters, blur, Gaussian blur. I always go back to Gaussian blur. So you can virtually completely wipe it out there. But once you've got that, you can then of course combine that. So filters again and again, you could record it in a macro. So you can go to distort and affine. And again, exactly the same as before. Set the scale, 20, and you can see your design there, 20. Mirror, apply. So you can create all kinds of different designs. And also, because we've got the macro still saved up here, I can click that and you can see you can create, I didn't know what I was going to get. You can actually create some very weird, just from a simple donut design. And you've got a very interesting pattern design very quick. Actually, that's quite a nice pattern design. I think that's quite and of course, that's on a layer. And you can see, because it's on a layer, what you can do, you can apply it. If I can find my layers, you've got here, it's on there. You can apply effects to it. So you can just go there as well and maybe decide, you know what, I want a bevel there. So you can add a quick bevel, maybe add a shadow as well. All kinds of different, helps go the right one. And you can see, you can create some very unique designs with that. And of course, you can still, if you go, there's the macro, apply again. Obviously, it gets to the point where it just becomes like a texture. You can virtually hardly see it. However, you can also, let's just come all the way out there now, because I don't want to do that. You can also use type as well. Now, you could, of course, blend the type with the image. So you've got this, you've got here with type. And I'm just going to put the word type. Very original. And just there. And again, you can always apply other effects as well with it. But I'm not. I'm just going to go with layer. And cross fingers, it works, because did this a bit earlier, it didn't suddenly, for some weird reason. Distort, affine, and so I've got this, and then you can, yes, it rotates around, and you can do the same, 20. Yeah, that's one thing to remember, is that when you do the channels, because I was doing the channels, and I went into this, and I was playing, and it didn't seem to work. The reason was I was in the red channel. Even though I could see it visually, it looked like it was all fine. And I was just trying to get it to work and it didn't. So always remember RGB and then it should work. And again, mirror, so you can see the type swaps there. So it flips over. Maybe not so useful with the, So that wrap is probably better with that because it's repeating the design. But I think it's when you've got an image where you don't want the seams around the edge to be so bad. And you can do that, and you can set that to 10. Now, sadly, I say, you just can't enter 5, which is odd because most of the filters in Affine or in Affinity Photo always allow for a lot greater range. But this one is very, very strict in terms of it just goes up to a certain point. And of course, you can go up to 1,000. 1,000's reasonable. And that's quite good for creating some very nice stretching designs there. And I click apply. And of course, what you can do, you can always repeat the Affine. So you can get very small. That's 10% of 10%. So it's quite tiny, that type. But of course, you've got macro again. And also, of course, you can always quickly go over here and you apply gold to it. Maybe not that one. Actually, not so good. I just applying it to the edge. But you can, of course, apply the macro as well. So you get some very interesting effects very quickly just by applying the macro, the deform and Affine that was saved earlier. And again, another one there, and so on and so on. Some very abstract designs very quickly just from a 2-line macro. Well, hope you found this of interest. Always adding new tutorials all the time about Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, Publisher, Photoshop, Illustrator, Painter, and many, many other applications. Also, if you've got any questions, anything you didn't like, anything that I wasn't explaining particularly well, please let me know in the comments. Always appreciated. And also, please check out the Graphic Extras channel. I'm always updating all of my various tutorials on there, so I'm always adding additional information that maybe didn't make it into this video, because quite often after I finish the video, I think, didn't mention X, Y, Z. Quite often I've put a lot of stuff in, then I forget something, I think. However, also a dislike or like, always appreciated as well. Thank you much.